When I was a child, every summer, 5 children and 2 adults climbed into an old station wagon. I believe it was called a Woody station wagon, and traveled 5 hours to Missouri to visit our grandparents who lived on a farm near the Black River. During one of those visits, when my cousins, my siblings, and I were playing outside, my brother was stung by a bee. His hand swelled to the size of a baseball glove. Now, in movies, when adults see frightening things, they faint. None of us kids fainted when we saw his hand, but I'm embarrassed to say we all ran screaming as far away from him as we could get. He stood there in disbelief, watching as his hand kept ballooning. Poor thing. One of the adults picked up my brother, who continued to stare, transfixed at his hand in amazement, and picked him up, took him to the emergency room, and then brought him back to my grandparents' house just a couple hours later. But this is the thing. This is the thing about this story. He went to the hospital, and he came home. His hand had gone down, but he was smug. He got coloring books. He got all this attention. He got candy. Doesn't seem right. Now, the second time this happened to my brother, when he got stung, I didn't even scream and run away. In fact, I stayed close by as my mother very calmly told my stepfather to go get the car again to go to the hospital. While he was away getting the car, I watched as my mother took her fingernails and tried to get the stinger out of his hand before the poison went into his hand. So the thing is, after she pulled it out and they got in the car, they went back to the hospital. But here's the thing. He seemed very okay when he came back. But I learned something. My mother said that a bee dies when they sting. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, that bee died. And so now, after that happened a couple times, instead of running out the door saying, yay, we're out here, I ran out the door going, oh, you bees, stay away, you will die. Despite the sad fact that honeybees die after stinging and others perish after mating with the queen bee, the little buzzers are amazing creatures. I'm not an expert on bees, but I'm fascinated by them from afar. They're very social creatures. They collectively raise their young. One source stated that nurse bees feed through glands in their head, the growing bees in the egg and larva stages. Nurse bees do this more than 100,000 times before the young bees grow into full adulthood. 100,000. And we thought as parents providing a meal 3 times a day for all those years was hard. 100,000 times. A field bee appears to be very intuitive. Each bee is part of the colony, and each works hard to do its part for the welfare of the whole hive. Bees are resourceful. They seal with bee glue that they make themselves the cracks and holes in a hollow tree where the hives are located. So one incredible, interesting fact is how they communicate with one another. They share information through body movement. They do a waggle dance. Maybe you've seen videos about it. It's quite fascinating. And through that waggle dance, how they move their body, they can tell other bees how far the food is or where to put the hive. So the round dance with a waggle in the middle indicates the distance of food or water or a place for a new home. I realize many of you already know this, but during this, I'm calling it an Earth Day month. People say, what are we doing for Earth Day? And I'm like, I'm doing the whole month of Earth Day. So I'm celebrating the whole month of Earth Day with you. I want to take every opportunity to remind us how awesome nature is. As far as insects go, I would say bees are remarkable members of the Hymenoptera family. There are others in this family. For example, ants are members too. Ant colonies are extremely complex systems whereby members have special jobs. Now, there are many interesting ones. For example, ant nannies hang around egg chambers, licking the eggs free of bacteria. Other ant occupations include searching for food, protecting the colony, and digging out the nest. There are countless numbers of ants in every colony, and there's always lots of activity. Ants take turns sleeping, so work can be done around the clock. Different groups of workers perform different jobs in the colony. Some of jobs might be for their entire lives, or they may have different jobs throughout as they get older. Even though ants feed off of our human messes, it appears they themselves are pretty clean housekeepers. They have an intricate venting system for garbage, and they're constantly recycling natural materials. For example, they haul leaf parts. You saw in the video, they were taking those leaf parts to the nest so that fungus can grow on the leaf parts, and they'll eat the fungus for food. The little creatures are so strong that they can often carry 10 times their weight in food and building materials. While bees correspond with other bees via body movements, ants are masters at communicating with odors secreted through glands in their bodies. So each gland produces a different chemical, and each sends a different message to other ants in the colony. They can even recognize other ants by their scent, and they leave smell trails for other ants to follow to get food to take to the colony. Am I the only one? Is this mind-blowing? I mean, maybe I would have learned this in 5th grade, but I'm paying more attention now than I used to. So you might be wondering, why is she talking about this from the pulpit? Well, here are 2 reasons. First, I'm just plain captivated. In fact, I can honestly say this journey involving being captivated by nature is a huge part of my spiritual journey. To remain curious about nature is to open the same box every day of your life and be delighted by a different gift each time you peer into that box. The second lesson is because I'm interested in exploring the concepts of instinct and intelligence, not only in ants, but in human beings as well, our behavior. I mean, what about human behavior? Why do we emerge from our hives, our homes, each week in order to attend Sunday services? There are no smell trails that bring us here. My guess is that many of us in this room have even rebelled at one time or another against the very idea of a communal gathering with spiritual overtones. And yet, here we are in a UU meeting house on a Sunday morning. For some, because we value our diversity in personal beliefs, for some, this is my UU church. For others, it is my UU congregation. For still more, it is my UU community. I love that we have the liberty to claim Unitarian Universalists of Clearwater as our personal home of growth and learning, and we can identify it in a way that fits for each person. So what are we seeking? It has to be more than companionship, knowledge, and finding like-hearted in the colony, the community. Is this drive for spiritual sustenance instinctual? Is it biological, maybe? Dean Hammer, maybe some of you remember this old book. Dean Hammer, author of that groundbreaking book titled The God Gene, argued that spirituality, quote, is one of our basic inheritances. It is, in fact, an instinct. He lists information acquired from a number of studies and concluded that part of the reason religion has persevered through the ages is because humankind wants it. While he referenced a possible gene that prompts one to seek spiritual experience, he summed it up, those findings, by saying it's a combination of factors, really. He pointed out that we innately seek self-transcendence, or the ability to move outside of ourselves and our everyday thoughts in order to feel a connection to something or some movement that is bigger than ourselves. He pointed out that it's also very much about how we perceive our life experiences, that we want to experience a feeling of oneness with the universe, everyone and everything in it, to be oriented maybe in the direction of purpose. I don't believe ants and bees sit around, these very intelligent creatures, take the time to evaluate how they feel about their lived daily experiences. I know for a fact, however, that people do. And the older we get, the more time we consider it. I think Hammer's findings are relevant for how people feel about volunteerism and work. Most of us seem to be wired to want to be connected to others and work for greater causes other than just for personal and financial gain. To actively contribute in some way through, say, time, talent, and treasure, and any of the other ways that we are connected and participate in the community, that's to be connected with others in the world, which can have a positive influence on one's sense of self-worth. When one is engaged in postcard writing, making calls, marching with others in protest, working for pay or volunteering, or sitting with friends or strangers in person or on Zoom, maybe on Zoom, talking to others and trying to make sense of the world and all that's happening. While that's happening, those neurotransmitters in the brain are just firing off, contributing to our personal understanding about people, places, and experiences. So it has been said that one of the most primal elements about being human is the need to thrive and survive. Further research points out that not only does each person want to strive to thrive and survive, but we want others to do so as well. I believe most of us have compassion. I say most because, well, I fear compassion is not in the heart and mind of some very local and national representatives who are at the helm of decision-making in the U.S. government. Not all representatives, I say, but wow. Greed, arrogance, homophobia, racism, classism, transphobia, Christian nationalism, misogyny, anti-immigrant and anti-climate voices are so very loud right now. I'd say these ants are out of control. If we consider ourselves a compassionate species, we are going to have to work a lot harder to fulfill a goal of surviving and thriving and helping others to do so as well. For all who protested yesterday, thank you. For those of us who could not attend, I want to say thank you for showing up. If you prefer, raise your hand and let us know that we had representatives who were out either in St. Pete or Safety Harbor or here. Thank you for being a witness. Now, granted, our thoughts have been formed in a society based on capitalism, that economic system based on the idea of private ownership or the means of production and the operation of institutions for profit. And it has reigned above everything else. Like many of us, I grew up with the idea that all should strive to own property and accumulate wealth and promote competitive markets. I'm a product of capitalism. I have bought into it hook, line, and sinker. I know I'm not the only one, and I understand that, like most things, there are gray areas in the balance of for good and for greed. And yet, as I have become more aware of climate change and, yes, collapse, I have become more mindful that humanity will not survive and thrive if we don't make some changes. You and I, as mature adults, are being asked to move into the future with deeper understanding of how personal privilege can also influence the survival of humankind and the planet. Little changes, big changes, changes relating to what we do with wealth when we have it. Some inconvenient changes are more necessary today than in the past. Ants and bees instinctively work so that the entire colony survives. One might say they lean more toward a socialist model of existence. So the point I'm making this morning is this: you and I have much to learn from these tiny creatures. Ever notice what happens when an ant confronts an obstacle? There doesn't appear to be an ant who encounters it first and stops and turns to everybody and says, someone put this large boulder in the way. Who did this and who is going to move it? Little antenna pointing. Who did this? You there. It's your job. You get out here and you move this boulder. It's not my job. Maybe there's another ant who says, we need to vote on how to move this boulder. Or a minister ant who says, I'll just get this out of the way. I'll just move this. Or another person standing next to the minister who says, that's not the minister's job. You're not supposed to lift things. Meanwhile, let me tell you who's working around obstacles. The campus administrator ants, the tech booth ants, the custodian ants. All of these are working behind the scenes to say, we're not going to sit around and argue about this. We're going to make our way around the obstacle. But it also means new ways. Now, I'm poking fun at us, myself too, here at UUC, but I'm still highlighting the real-life common ant. Do they seem to operate in this manner, a hierarchy? I don't know for sure because I'm not versed in ant language. But what I have noticed upon quiet observation is that they seem to somewhat intuitively find a way around an obstacle and appear to, trusting in the common good of the outcome, they appear to do it together. Ants are persistent in their drive to navigate challenges as they travel and forge new paths. You and I, all of us, are part of this interdependent web. We must find new paths or ways around obstacles, especially if we can't remove them in the near future. It means doing things differently than we did 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 3 years ago, or post or pre-COVID. We will constantly have to find ways to, like water, move around obstacles, chart new paths. Bees, did you know that from an engineering perspective, I love this, so when people say we can't do this or we can't do that, listen to this. Did you know that from an engineering perspective, a bee should not be able to fly? The wings can't support the weight of the body, and yet they do. Maybe it's intelligence or maybe it's their instinct. Certainly our insect kin have an inherent aptitude, impulse, or capacity to overcome challenges. We can learn from them. Surely we human beings can use our intelligence to find solutions as we face seemingly insurmountable obstacles like climate collapse. My faith, my trust is that we will unite as often as we can and take action to mitigate dire outcomes. We do it as much as we can, and we do it together. We are a small group, I know. However, when you think it won't make a difference to send a postcard to a congressman, or it won't matter if you make a phone call or protest, let me share one final fact with you. The fascinating thing about a common cricket is that that tiny chirp can be heard yards away from you. If you have ever had a cricket in your bedroom at night when you are trying to sleep, then you know how loud that one tiny chirp can be. So the most important thing to remember is that sometimes little things can have a great effect on outcomes. Just because we're a small group does not mean we cannot participate in making a loud, annoying difference. In this community of faith seekers, nature lovers, bee charmers, busybodies and justice makers, may we find the strength to solve problems, the patience to communicate with one another in ways that are kind, and the resolve to nurture support for each other here in the closeness of this colony, this community, and take it to the wider world. May it be so. May it be so.